Hello, everyone. I'm going to go over the slide deck on how a problem identification is important to entrepreneurs and why. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Okay, so here we are with the slide deck. I think I finally mastered this now where it will work for me properly, I hope. There we go. Okay, so how is problem identification important? It's important to know that it is, and let's just see why. So it really is the core of all business opportunities. We look at the problem. We must look at the problem before we look at a solution. And so entrepreneurs are problem solvers, aren't we? So we have a tendency to want to look at problems to be able to develop a solution. And so what do we do here? It's the first step towards creating really the product or the service. If we just look at a situation and we say, oh, I have a solution for that, let me do this, without really thoroughly digging into the problem and fully understanding the problem, we could wind up making mistakes. So it is important for us to take that deep dive into the problem to fully understand it and dissect it. There are many famous people who have been very successful that spend 95% of their time analyzing the problem and 5% of the time working on the solution. So we want you to think about doing that instead of just jumping right into the solution. So we want to really understand and focus on the real problem. What really is that problem? And we want to think about a solution that customers are willing to pay for, certainly. And we want to think strategically in our focus about the problem identification. We want to, develop a strategic focus of what really matters by digging deeply into that problem. It helps us to avoid a waste of time and really focusing on irrelevant situations or solutions that may not really be the answer. It helps us to create a competitive advantage by taking that deep dive into the problem. Oftentimes, it helps us to carve out a niche or beating competitors to the market. And also, it helps us to with risk mitigation. So when we mitigate risk with developing products or service that nobody wants, we don't want to do that. We want to find out what people really want. So how do we do that? Again, digging deeply into the problem to find out what is really needed. So it also helps us with critical thinking and analytical skills by taking that deep dive. We really learning problem identification helps sharpen students' critical thinking, analytical abilities by how? By using essential skills of entrepreneurs, analyzing complex situations. When you think about a problem, you think, how can a problem be complex? Well, it can be very complex. Sometimes there's layers associated with the problem, and getting to the root cause can be take or require a lot of critical and analytical thinking. So we want to think in those terms, discern underlying issues that could be there, finding root cause and so forth, and devising effective solutions at the end. So it also helps us to provide agility. Agility being, that we can move from one area to another, and or we can encompass more than one area. And so we want to think of, the business environment is a dynamic market. It's constantly changing. And our problem, if we jump into the problem too quickly, we want to really analyze it thoroughly so we fully understand it and all the nuances associated with it. And then we want to adapt them as essential. So typically entrepreneurs who do this are much more resilient, they're more agile, and they're better navigators in those uncertain environments. So I want to thank you for viewing the video, and I hope that that will help you some with this module studies. Thank you so much. Please reach out to me with any questions or concerns through Canvas inbox. I'm happy to respond. I'm happy to have a Zoom meeting with you as well.